you don't ever leave, you never leave. Holes in his hands for the holes in my heart. Without his blood shed for me, I'd be stuck in the dark. I'm just being who I'm made, I ain't playing no part. If you searching for fulfillment, he ain't far. It's temporary to eternal.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another week of the Because Faith in Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Chad, and this will be my first week doing this a little bit differently. So and it's actually, some of it is part of the topic of discussion for the day, but I am in St. George, and it's baseball tournament season. So I remembered last minute before I was leaving that this was happening, and I was shocked how unprepared I was for it. I think I'll have to double check, but I'm getting pretty close to 6 straight months. I haven't missed a weekend yet, and this weekend was probably the closest I'd come to doing it. Not just because I was out of town, but anyway, so before I get into that, so this podcast was born from me realizing what a deep hole I'd gotten into, and something had to happen. 75 Hard presented itself again to me. Only this time it was a lot different. The previous time I did it was solely just to say that I did it, to complete it. And this time around, well, I guess it's been almost 6 months since I started, or 7. Anyway, it's been a while. And this time I wanted to actually get the mental strength and clarity, and out of it, the word purpose came to mind, and I realized how much I'd lost my way on what it was that I wanted to do or who I wanted to be, and the distractions, which I'm going to get into a little bit too. And out of that was born the podcast for a way for me to talk myself through some of the lessons that I think I need to learn, or that other people tell me that I need to learn. I do better talking it out loud. It's not necessarily the talking out loud, it's the forced preparation for this in my study that I learn lessons, as well as when I talk out loud. So anyway, so this week is that focus and distractions. This week wasn't necessarily different than any other week, but it was the distractions and focus was different. So sort of last weekend, I ended up at the RV show. Things happen at RV shows, and suddenly I have a new distraction, and in some ways a new false idol, right? Like anything that I put above what I want to be, put above God in any way where that's where my distraction's being taken, is by definition that false idol to me, in my opinion. So anyway, that starts distracting me, and then I get word the VAs received all the documentation they need for some stuff I'm doing with them. So that becomes a distraction. That one's not necessarily bad, but it's taking up a lot of brain space. I'm in school, and it's a little more challenging than I first anticipated. Maybe it's just getting back into the habit of it, but so that's been distraction. Work had some twists and some challenges, I guess, for the week that created a distraction. And in preparation for this weekend, excitement to use the new trailer, and then just knowing I had everything ready, first baseball tournament of the season, remembering everything that we need, and the list goes on and on and on. Nothing different than anything else that we all have. And on top of that, some excitement things happen, like the dead crypto market for the last 2 or 3 years has roared to life and caught my attention. And then we have the primaries and stuff going on, things that I shut out of my life when it was roughly 6 months ago when I guess it's been a little over a year ago that I mostly got out of my social media kicks and habits. And in the last 6 months, when I do get on for a few minutes, whether I'm posting, about this or the first thing or two that comes up, if it looks like it's political or negative anyway, I just go and unfollow all that. So, which is shocking how many things I was following that just spew negativity. So all that goes on, and suddenly I'm getting ready to leave for this trip on Thursday, and I realize I've not even worked on my script. And it had intended to just be continuation of patience and stuff from last week, which I'll probably still do again, because after having done that, I had some better perspective and learned some other lessons, and so I wanted to share. But I realized this week had just gone to the wayside, and I started thinking old Chad would have been perfectly fine with that happening. It was just my pattern of unloading tasks when my plate gets too full. I'd almost become, it's like this subconscious habit. In the past, I would have just been okay with missing a week and thought, well, I'll just get back to it next week, it's fine. And in this case, it's like, there's not even really anybody watching it, but it's not about that. Like, that wasn't even the point of this whole podcast. And just how quick I was willing to let it go because I'm too busy or too full, or not even having to talk myself into it. It just would happen. But so I do what I've been working on doing, and I turn to scripture, and like the first thing that stood out, I guess, that seemed like it related to me was Proverbs 4:25-27. Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. This wisdom is incredibly relevant to me right now. My focus shouldn't be on distractions swirling around me, but on the goal ahead. And in my case, this is my learning what my calling is and trying to put God first, which is a huge thing for me, something that doesn't come natural for me. Most of my life hasn't been part of my life, and it's just something that I really want to be a part of my life. So I need to keep my focus ahead. Doesn't mean that all the stuff surrounding it is necessarily... Sorry, my dog is going crazy. Is bad. Like, I mean, money, things that we buy, it's not bad, but if it steals my distraction, it keeps me from my goal, in essence, it's become a false idol. And the money, for me, the toys, like, none of that is a goal. That wasn't the goal. There's bigger goals. There's these other things that support my goals or that are a byproduct of working to reach my goals. But like, my goals is to become the person that I think God intended me to be, and to help other people based on my experiences and my studies. And it's interesting that I feel that way, and I know that, and how easy it is to be distracted. And I think we all do that regularly. Like, you start working out, and I'll run into people who said they were starting this, diet or starting this workout routine, and then we go a while without seeing each other, and I run into them, and I'm like, hey, how's working out going? Or how's, that paleo diet going? Whatever it is they're doing. And oftentimes it's like, oh, well, we ended up doing this, and, I got sidetracked, so I missed the day, but I'm going to get back on it. Like, it's just super easy that we can justify and let things that are not worth our time take so much of our time. Again, like I said, all those things, it's not that I'm saying they're bad or that we shouldn't have them, or you shouldn't strive to be, financially successful and financially independent, because there's a lot of good to come from that. I mean, a lot of the things that I would like to do, within my faith, like, requires money. Like, it is important, but it's just not the goal. It's a tool in helping me achieve my goal, or continue paving the way to achieve it. So the pattern that I had been in is just letting, I think that those verses just say it perfectly. Like, just letting my eyes wander to the right and to the left, and then having my feet follow wherever I repoint my eyes. And it's not done me well. There's times where my priorities were out of whack, and my goals and what I thought was my path forward. But once you have determined, even if it's not, like I said, like, mine is God and His Word, and yours just might be whatever's on your vision board. But there's a lot of things that can distract you, and then come the end of the year, it's like, I didn't get that. And I've done this, I'm not saying everybody else, like, this is me talking about me, but rationalizing and justifying, like, why I didn't hit the things on my vision board. Last year was the first year that, like, there was things that weren't hit because what they were based in, I didn't even want by the end of the year. It's interesting, I think I might have talked about this already, but my vision board for last year, for 2023, compared to the one for 2024, in 2024 it's focused on, like, me in relationships and my health, school. I have a few, material things on there, but for the most part, it's betterment of myself and self-mastery in the areas that I think I need the most work in. Last year it was 100% money related. Again, not a bad thing, but I think, for me personally, and not following my heart or my desire, like, it makes it really hard to overcome and achieve. Like, I feel like I've made better financial strides having my focus on what I think is truly important than I did when I focuses on those financial strides. Like, the clarity that I have on what it is that I need to do is different. So anyway, so when this happens, for me, it's like that voice that we talk about, like, Andy Frisella would call it your boss voice and your bitch voice, and Pedro's, I can't even think of what he calls it right now, but good and evil. If I was better at doing this, I'd put, like, a little angel here, and then I'd put a little devil over here. But those two different voices, and the little red devil that you can't actually see because I don't know how to do that, gets really loud, and it's easy to let it steal that attention. And the key that I realize is, like, in those moments when that voice seems loud, or it just seems like it's like a super easy path, that's probably the time that you're being pulled away from what your goal is, or what your true desire is. And it's the best time to probably ignore it. You should ignore it all the time, but there's certain times for me personally when it gets, like, that loud, or it blocks out so many other things that the absence of thought should almost be a sign for me. So this week has reminded me that I have to stay steadfast on my path. I have to stay focused, and I can refocus. That's the great thing, is like you always have a choice to refocus. And with everything that I've learned and gone through and focused on in this last 6 months, like I was able to catch it like in a day. Like I didn't miss doing this. And again, this is more for me than it is for anybody else, but it would have been detrimental to my progress had I missed recording this, solely because this is part of my goal, and it was set, and it would have been super easy to have just failed at roughly the 6-month mark just by one decision of looking and following my gaze in the wrong direction. And luckily I've learned enough, and I think I have enough tools in my tool belt that I was able to realize I was looking left and get back on my target. So what's ahead for you? Where should your eyes be looking? Let's remind ourselves that while distractions are inevitable, our focus is ours to control. And there's somebody that, for me, that I have, like I've talked about that, like I have this temple that I believe the Holy Spirit lives in, and he is there to keep me on path, but it's my choice to listen or not to listen. So let's keep our gaze straight, not swerve to the right or to the left as we follow the path set before us. So I don't know, if my goal this week is to actually identify times where I haven't even realized that I've done that yet, and figure out what the distraction was that pulled my attention. Because as awesome as some things are, my goals and desires are much bigger than any material item can be. And I just implore you to look at, and I'm not saying don't keep those goals for those material items, but I'm just saying, like, is it the most important thing? Have relationships suffered by that being like the main goal? Have other relationships? Is your health? Like, just look. And if you don't fit any of those categories and it's just all worked out for you, then awesome. And I would hope that you would share with the rest of us on what we need to do, because I'm always open to learning more. So anyway, I hope that that's maybe been helpful. It was super helpful for me because, like I said, I almost ruined a 6-month goal. So just as a reminder, Proverbs 4:25-27, let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. Remember, I used the English Standard Version Bible. It's a lot newer. I think it's much easier to interpret in our modern language. And it's also been written with like any of the most previous pieces of scripture that have been dug up and found and verified with other things. So anyway, if you were just curious, because I think reading thous and those and all the weird stuff in King James or the New International Version are just super confusing because I don't talk like that. So if I'm going to read something confusing, I'm going to learn Greek, and I'll just read it that way. Anyway, so thank you for joining me and my first remote recording. And remember, amidst the chaos, keep your eyes forward and your focus clear. And if you don't, find a way to catch it as soon as possible and get back on track. So until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and keep moving forward. And remember, if you found value in today's message, don't forget to share, subscribe, and like. Together we can navigate the distractions and stay true to our paths. I'm Chad, and this is our journey of faith, focus, and perseverance. stay blessed, and stay active.
Bloodshed for me, I be stuck in the dark. I'm just being who I'm made, I ain't playing no part. If you searching for fulfillment, he ain't far. What's temporary to eternal? Eternal. What's temporary to eternal?